I've gotten a lot of questions via TikTok and Instagram about how to get started with recording. So today I'm going to show you how to use just your iPhone to record a rock song. And if you stick around till the end of the video, I'll show you a few cheap upgrades you can make to make the recording process with your phone even a little bit better. So let's get into all that and more. Welcome to Punk Rock 101. What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode number 3 of Punk Rock 101. I've been having a lot of fun making these so far. If you're new here, my name is AJ and my musical project is called Shakeout. This channel is about punk rock music and punk rock advice. This is where I share not only my music, but my experiences over the past 18 years of playing in bands, touring the country, running a venue, and so much more in an effort to help you on your musical journey. If that sounds like something you're interested in, these videos are weekly if you want to subscribe to the channel. And if you could also throw a like on this video, that would help me out a ton. So, you want to start recording music, but you think there's some big cost of entry to do so. Today, I'm here to shut down those excuses and get you started with a device that you're probably already carrying in your pocket. I've been recording my own music now since I'm like 12 years old. I'm 28 now, so that's however many years. And at first, I used just a karaoke box and a cassette tape, and then I moved to a computer mic and Audacity. But since then, technology has come a really long way. So today, we're going to record a little piece of my song 2005 using just my phone and the GarageBand app, which is free. In the recording, I'm going to include drums, guitar, bass, and even vocals. So let's get into it, and I'll show you how to get this up and running. Okay, so that's my phone screen you're seeing, and this is kind of what the GarageBand app looks like once you open it up. So you can pick through a bunch of different software instruments. They have a bunch like keyboard, drums, different guitar amps, an audio recorder, strings, bass, a bunch of things. But what we're going to actually start off with is the drummer track. So if you're not a drummer, this is available both in GarageBand and in Logic, and it's a really, really great tool. So basically, the drummer track is just like a virtual drummer that lets you go through different beats and sounds to kind of find something that might work for your song. It just basically gives you a drum loop and allows you to add fills and even make it more complicated or simple or louder or softer. So you can click through these different beats and you can kind of listen through. So let's listen to Half Pipe. So you can kind of see that it just gives you a really basic drum beat. But when you go into the editor, all you have to do to go into the editor is click on the track itself. You can kind of see you can make it louder, or you can make it simpler or more complicated. So for this song, I want to go for something loud but kind of simple. So I'm going to keep this little dial all the way up here where it's loud and kind of towards the simple side. You can also see that there's this little fill scroll on the bottom, and basically what that does is it just adds less or more fills. So if you have it all the way up here, you're going to have a lot of fills. If you have it down here, it'll have less fills. So I'm going to keep it kind of low. So let's take a listen to what we got. All right, cool. So we got a kind of simple drum beat going, but it's actually a little bit too slow. So I'm going to show you what we need to do to make it a little bit faster and change the tempo. So right next to the play button, which is at the top middle of the screen, there's a little triangle that's actually the metronome. But to change the tempo, we have to go to the top right, all the way to the right to the little settings cog. And then it says tempo. And I know that this song is 170 beats per minute, but you might not know that. So what you can do is you can actually just tap the button that says tap to set tempo, and it'll just set the tempo to whatever you tap in. But for our purposes, since I know it's 170, I'm just going to set it at 170, and then you could just press done. And if you have that little metronome sign on that's blue, which is next to the play button, so you can see I'm tapping it right now and it's going blue, that means that the metronome will be on. So when you play the track back, you can see you have a metronome and the drum track, and you can see that the drum track actually fixed to the tempo that we needed it to be at. So for me personally, I actually do play the drums, so I tend to program the drums hit for hit myself, which you can also do in the GarageBand app. But if I'm just trying to work out a guitar riff or a part of a song, I do often use the drummer track to just kind of have a foundation, and then I'll reprogram the drums later on. But for the purpose of this demo, I want to show you how simple it can be. We'll just keep this drummer track as our actual drum recording. So now that we have a drum part laid out, I want to get into recording guitars. So we're just going to press the little plus sign on the bottom left corner of the screen. And it's going to bring you back to this, where you pick which instrument you want to play. So now, generally speaking, I would actually rather have my guitar run straight into my phone, into the GarageBand app directly, and then I would use this amp plugin, which would allow me to use the GarageBand amplifiers that are built in. I just think that that's the best way to get the cleanest signal if you're going to record something with your cell phone. But that would also require additional equipment because you need an interface that would let you plug your guitar into your phone, which I'll talk a little bit about later in the video. So to stay true to the purpose of this video, I actually set up my guitar amp behind me, and whatever guitar amp you usually use is what you would use for this. And I'm just going to record it using the microphone in my cell phone. The only thing I would recommend grabbing before you do this is a towel so that you can help with the vibrations and get the cleanest sound possible. All right, so we have to do a few things to set up. The first thing is you want to slide over in the app to the audio recorder, and you're going to click the instrument button. It says either voice or instrument. You're going to click instrument. And then you're going to get a new track. And you can kind of see here there's a compressor, there's how much room and the tone. These are some different settings you can mess with, but we're going to focus on setting up our guitar amp the right way first. Okay, so I have my guitar amp set up, as you can see behind me. And basically all you want to do is make sure that the phone microphone is at the height of the speaker. And remember that the phone microphone is at the bottom of the phone, so that's what you want to actually be pointing at the speaker. You can see what I have going on here. I basically just put the towel on top of two small cardboard boxes so I could lift my phone up a little higher, and then I just put the phone on top of the towel so that it removes any vibrations. And you can totally mess around with where the phone goes in front of the speaker, because if you put a little closer to the middle of the speaker cone, you're going to get a little bit of the more trebly sound, and vice versa. If you put it a little bit further from the middle of the speaker, then you're going to get a little more bass. I kind of like to put it somewhere in between, but you can kind of just mess around and figure out what sounds best to you. But once you get a setup going like this, where you have your phone microphone pointing at the speaker of your amp on top of a towel, you're all good to go and you're ready to record. So I actually recorded the first guitar part off camera so that I could use my headphones. But basically a few things to keep in mind before you actually do the recording is to see this meter on the left side of the screen that you can see is going up and down because it's recording my voice right now. You just want to make sure that that's not too loud and it's not getting in the red. You don't want anything like this where it starts to get too hot. So make sure of that. And after you make sure that the level is pretty good, not too loud, not too quiet, you're just going to hit the red dot at the top, which is the record button, and it's going to give you a count in of 8 clicks. And then you're going to start recording to your drum part. And another thing to keep in mind and why I recorded this off camera is you're going to need a set of headphones. Any earbuds will do, but you're going to need to be able to plug your headphones into your phone so that you can actually hear the drum part while you're recording the guitar, especially since you're going to have a loud amp in the room with you. But with all that in mind, once you have your amp set up, you have your phone microphone pointing at it, and the level seems good, and you got your headphones plugged in, you're going to get an 8 count, and then you're going to record along to the drums, and it'll sound something like this. So there's your first guitar part. So what I actually like to do with my recordings is that I like to double the guitar parts so that it fills it out a little bit more. So what we're going to do is we're going to just repeat the process all over again. We're going to go to the audio recorder. We're going to click instrument. We're going to get another track. I'm going to go back and I'm going to record the exact same guitar part along with the one that I've already recorded. So let me hop off, plug my headphones back into my phone. I'm going to record that guitar part real quick, and then I'll show you what we'll do after that. Okay, so I went back. I repeated the process. I put my phone microphone back down next to my amp, and I recorded the exact same guitar part alongside of the other one. So once you get a good take and you feel like you played the part well, this is what you're going to do next. In the top left corner, you're going to see the little mixer sign that I'm going to click, and you see it just went blue. And then you see that you have the track volume and the track pan. And what you're going to do is you're going to put one of the guitars all the way right. And what track pan does is it moves the guitars into one speaker or versus another. So we're going to put one of the guitars all the way right, and then we're going to go to the other guitar, and we're going to put it all the way left. So now you're going to have one guitar all the way in the left ear and one guitar all the way in the right ear. And when you play it back, you're going to get something like this. So as you can hear, the guitar sounds a little bit wider, and the only way really to get that effect is to actually record the guitar twice. You can't just copy and paste the first take and try to pan them left and right, because that'll just make it louder. So you really do have to actually record the part twice, exactly the same way, and then just do that pan trick, and you're going to get a nice wide guitar sound. All right, so now that we have the guitar parts all recorded and we have them panned left and right, let's move on to the bass. And just like with the guitars, I definitely prefer to plug the bass into an interface and then plug it straight into my phone and use the bass amp that's built into GarageBand. So just like before, you're going to add a new track and you're going to slide over and you're going to go to audio recorder. Before we actually pick the audio recorder, I just want to point out that if you don't own a bass, you only own a guitar, or you don't own a bass amp, or you don't have a way to plug your instrument straight into your phone and use the bass amp built in, you can actually just use the virtual instruments built in here. There is a bass instrument that you can just type in the bass parts that you want, and just use that instead of actually playing the bass. So there really is no excuse for not adding these instruments, because even if you don't own the instrument itself, it's built into the program. But since I do have a bass and we're gonna just record my bass amp, we're gonna go audio recorder, and then we're gonna hit the instrument button again, and then we have the track. So now I'm gonna go set this back up in front of my bass amp, just like I did with my guitar amp, plug my headphones into my phone, and record over the guitars. As you can see, I have a very similar setup to what I did with my guitar. I have my phone sitting on top of the towel with the microphone at the bottom of the phone pointing at the amp. And then I have my headphones plugged into the bottom of it so that I can actually hear the track when I play along. And once I got the level all sorted out and I was up and ready, I just hit the big red button in the top and I recorded. And it actually took me a few times. Always remember, it might take a few times to get a really good take. But if you mess up, all you really have to do is press this little undo arrow at the top right, and you can just try again. So just remember that it might take a few times to get the best take. But here's what we got. So when I listen to that, the first thing I kind of think of is, I wish the guitars were a little bit louder. So what you're going to do is go back to the main screen. You're going to hit this little guitar track. That's one of the actual guitars. And you're just going to hit the little mixer button at top. And the track volume, we're going to just bring it up a little bit. And then since my other guitar track is the exact same thing, I want them to be equally as loud. And then once you're happy with where the volumes are at, you're all good to go. So let's jump into recording some vocals. All right, so as we hop into recording vocals, you're just going to add a new track just like you did before. But this time, instead of pressing instrument, you're going to press voice. So now you have a new vocal track. It kind of gives you a little bit of a different setting here. You can see it says voice hall, which is a little bit of a reverb. It has a compressor, a tone, and you can mess with all these settings and just like turn the knobs and see what happens and try to get a little bit better at seeing what you like. But for now, I'm just going to leave it at the default setting. All right, so before we start recording vocals, you're going to want to make sure you have a place to place your phone microphone high enough where you can sing into it with decent posture. So I'm just going to use the shelf right next to my desk. And again, since we don't have a real vocal booth, I'm just going to place it on top of this towel to help with the vibrations and kind of help muffle the vocals just slightly. So just like recording everything else, we're going to plug our headphones into the bottom, especially when doing vocals, because you really do need to make sure that you can hear the track. And just like before, we're going to hit the red button and we're going to start to sing over our guitars. No way to feel good on a bad day. Dropped hearts and broken names. All right, so I gave it one really quick vocal take, but let's see what we got. The rest of our lives, got another confession to make. That's where I want to be. No way to feel good on a bad day. Dropped hearts and broken names. So definitely not perfect, and probably not what I would go with if I was actually recording a song right now. I would give it a couple more takes and just try to get my best take in. But we'll stick with that for now for the demo purposes. All right, so from here, there's a lot of things you can do. Like I said, there's a million instruments. If you wanted to add keys, you can literally just do it on your phone. If you wanted to add strings or another bass part or guitar part. I usually like to double my vocals, so I'm going to do that really quick. And what I mean by that is I'm just going to sing the line again, just to thicken up the voice a little bit. But with recording, there's endless possibilities. You can add harmonies. You can add more instruments. You could add percussion. You could do so many things. I'm just trying to keep it kind of simple and show you what you can do from your phone. All right, so once you have everything recorded and you're feeling good about all your takes, you can just bounce this out of your phone and you can save it and put it anywhere you want. And you have a demo or recording of your music using literally just your phone. So like I said, I kind of rushed some of these takes and I would probably spend a little bit more time to get better takes. But let's take a listen to what we got. Got another confession to make. That's where I want to be. No way to feel good on a bad day. Dropped hearts and broken names. So there you go. You got a pretty good sounding recording using just your phone. But let's talk about a few upgrades that you can make that will help make the recordings even better in the future. All right, so the first investment that you might want to make is some kind of a recording interface, maybe something like this or this. And these are both two good options that are pretty cheap, and I'll link them down below in the description if you want to check them out. Now, these interfaces run from USB, so you are going to need a dongle like this that takes a regular old USB-A and plugs it into your iPhone with the Lightning port. But from that, you're able to just plug any USB interface in your phone, and it'll just use that as the microphone instead. And with that, you'll be able to plug your guitar into the interface instead of into an amp, and then you can just use the amps that are built into GarageBand, which will definitely give you a cleaner tone. You'll also be able to buy a cheap microphone, maybe something like this, And you can plug the microphone into the interface as well, and you can sing into that microphone, which will give you a little bit of a cleaner tone instead of using the microphone on your actual phone. Like I said, the link for all that stuff is in the description, but the reality is, as I've showed you, you don't really need all that stuff to get started. You can make recordings using just this device. I hope this week's episode was helpful and gets you inspired to start recording your own music, even if you don't have any equipment yet. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions about today's episode, or even what you want me to talk about next week or in future episodes. See you next week. Cheers.